Well, hello there. My name's Jason, and I'm a firefighter with Central County Fire Rescue. Today, we're going to talk about fire safety, what you can do to prevent fires, and what to do during a fire. We're going to start by watching a movie called Be Cool About Fire Safety, where our friend Seymour's smoke detector is going to help us learn the things that we need to know about fire safety and fire prevention. Now, I want you to pay real close attention to what Seymour and his friends are talking about here, because when I come back, I'm going to quiz you on what you've learned. So let's see what Seymour has to say.
Be cool about fire safety. Be cool. If you don't want to get burned, be cool about fire safety. You got a lot to learn. Be cool about fire safety. Be cool. If you want to stay alive, be cool about fire safety. Listen and you'll survive.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm Chuck. And we're going to be telling you lots of cool things about fire safety. Did you know that every year hundreds of kids are hurt in fires?
But kids can do something to stop them too.
There's some cool rules about fire safety.
And if you learn them, you could be a deputy fire marshal! And even teach your family what to do.
Check out this free Deputy Fire Marshal's kit with cool stuff to help you. Did you know that many fires started because kids played with matches and lighters?
It's really sad. The fire started with matches and lighters, hurt thousands of people last year.
Like parents and grandparents?
And brothers and sisters. If you ever see matches or lighters, don't touch them.
Uh-oh! Somebody left out matches and a lighter.
Remember,
Wow!
keep your eyes open, and if you see these, tell a grown-up right away. But never touch them, and you'll be a real superhero.
Like a deputy fire marshal?
Exactly.
Don't touch matches or ladders. Tell a grown-up instead. Be cool about fire safety. Be cool.
Sounds like a fire in progress. Let's check it out.
Who's a hydrant? What's happening?
We're not sure, but someone playing with matches may have started it.
That's terrible.
You know it, and it was out of control in just a few minutes. You guys need more water? Okay, here it comes. Whoa, whoa!
Hold on, Jose.
Whoa.
Hope you get that fire under control.
We'll check back with you later.
Muy bien. Very good, eh?
We'll check on that fire later. But now, here's something cool that can warn you about fire.
It's one of the most important safety devices you can have in your home. A smoke detector.
Ow! I hate smoke.
Who are you?
Seymour Smoke. Smoke detector. The more smoke I see, the more noise I make. And I see more smoke coming from that toaster.
Thanks for warning us, Seymour.
That's my job. I hate smoke. It's disgusting. It gives me a headache. So whenever I see it or smell it, I make this noise to warn you. 'Cause where there's smoke, there may be fire.
Good tip, Seymour.
That's a different noise. What does that mean, Seymour?
Now, if you hear me chirping, that could mean two things. That could mean, well, all of a sudden you bought a bird that you didn't know about, or it could mean that my batteries are low. Go tell your parents that I need new batteries. How many smoke detectors do you have in your home? Count them. Yeah, you count them. Is there one outside your bedroom? Is there? There should be. Tell your parents. You'll see more of me later.
Be cool about fire safety.
Do you know how to escape from your home if there's a fire?
You gotta have a plan. They didn't have a plan, but these people do. You gotta have a plan.
Grown-ups can make it, and firemen can help.
Okay, in case of a fire, you and your sister are to go out this door.
Or we can always go out that way. We have 2 exits, okay?
You need 2 ways out.
You gotta have a meeting place.
So make sure your family has an escape plan.
Whether you live in a house or a building.
And remember, practice makes perfect.
It could save your life.
And your family.
So tell your parents, we gotta have a plan.
You gotta have an escape plan, and you'll be a step ahead. Be cool about fire safety.
We're still trying to put out this fire. It's a hard job, but it's our job, not yours. If you're in a fire, don't try to put it out. It's your job to get away. Here are some other don'ts to remember. Don't take time to save your toys or pets. Don't get in an elevator. And don't ever, please, don't ever go back into a burning house. Fires can be very scary. Even firemen get scared sometimes. So it's only natural. Kids would be scared too. Especially if they might have started the fire. But no matter what, no matter how scared you feel, never, ever hide. Don't hide. Go outside. Can you remember that? Don't hide. Go outside. If you see someone that looks like this, don't be scared. Firemen have to wear all this strange-looking stuff to protect themselves. Like masks to help them breathe.
It makes us look and sound weird and scary.
But really, we're not. So don't be afraid of us. Be afraid of fire. And remember, even if you're afraid, don't hide. Go outside.
Don't hide, go outside, get out the door and run. Be cool about fire safety.
See more smoke, the smoke detector here. And you know, hey, up here, point to the one who's talking. Boy, these cameramen don't know anything. Anyway, I have another cool rule about fire safety. Do you know how to escape a fire? No, you don't. I'll bet you don't. Well, would you believe you could learn the answer from a baby? You could. You really could. Just pay attention.
Even they know no matter how small, you gotta fall and you gotta crawl. If you get caught in a fire, here's what you should know. Get down on your knees and you remember, please, to keep your body low. You just got to fall and crawl, that's all. And you get out of the fire. Fall and crawl, that's all. And you get out of the fire. If it gets smoky around you, so cloudy that you can see, just cover your face and get out of that place and fall and crawl just like me. You just got to fall and crawl, that's all. And you get out of the fire. Fall and crawl, that's all. And you get out of the fire. It may sound crazy, but crawl like a baby. Get out on your knees and remember, you gotta fall and crawl, that's all. And you get out of the fire. Fall and crawl, that's all. And you get out of the fire. Fall and crawl, that's all. And you get out of the fire. Fall and crawl, that's all. And you get out of the fire.
A fire, it's an emergency! A time to call for help! out of your house, go to a neighbor's house and call the local emergency number. Do you know yours?
Quick! What's the number for 911? How do I know?
Hello? Mr. Repairman? All the machines in my house are acting weird. I mean, the vacuum cleaner is supposed to sound like... But right now it sounds like... marbles. And the blender, well, last night the cat turned it on. And the washing machine? Oh, forget about the washing machine. It sounds like... Kids, could you answer the door, please? Thanks.
Help! It's an emergency! Dad, it's Billy! It's an emergency!
Hey, well, I have an emergency. My house is nuts!
But Mr. Winslow, my house is on fire!
Why didn't you say so? Goodbye!
I have to call 911!
Come on.
911, I have to report a fire. 18 April. You're on your way? Thanks!
Don't worry, Billy. Pretty soon you'll be hearing...
To report a fire, always go to a neighbor's house and call 911. Or your local emergency number. Ask a grown-up what number you should call.
Don't hide, go outside, get out the door and run. You gotta race to a neighbor's place and dial 911.
What would you do if you were on fire? I don't know. Jump in a tub? No, you gotta stop, drop, and roll. Come on.
If your clothes got fire, you gotta drop to the ground. If your clothes got fire, you gotta roll round and round. You just stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. You gotta stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. Get down on the ground and stop, drop, and roll. Get down on the ground and don't you ever stand. Roll round and round and cover your face with your hands. You just stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. You gotta stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. Get down on the ground and stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll.
Jose Hydrant, is that fire out yet?
Oh, Chuck, Sue, I'm pooped. The fire is finally under control. It took hours to put out what started in a couple of minutes.
That house looks pretty bad. What's left of it?
At least no one was hurt. This time, they had an escape plan.
Great. That was smart.
We've all got to work together to stop fires. That means you, Deputy Fire Marshals.
Don't touch matches.
If you see these, tell a grown-up right away.
You gotta have a plan.
Don't hide. Go outside.
You gotta fall and you gotta crawl.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Hey! Holy smokes! What about me? Everyone should see more smoke detectors in their home.
You're right, Seymour the smoke detector.
Seymour smoke detectors.
Learn these cool rules and you could be the deputy fire marshal in your home.
And get your free Deputy Fire Marshal's kit.
So long for now, deputy fire marshals.
And remember, be cool about fire safety.
Be cool about fire safety. Be cool. If you don't want to get burned, be cool about fire safety. You got a lot to learn. Don't touch matches or lighters. Tell a grown-up instead. You gotta have an escape plan, and you'll be a step ahead. Don't hide, go outside, get out the door and run. You gotta race to a neighbor's place and dial 911. Be cool about fire safety. If you don't want to get burned, be cool about fire safety. You got a lot to learn. You need smoke detectors that
smoke detectors do you have in your home? Count them.
Be cool about fire safety. Be cool. If you don't want to get burned, be cool about fire safety. You got a lot to learn. Remember that where there's fire, there's gonna be a lot of smoke. Crawling, cover your mouth, so smoke can make you choke. Be cool about fire safety. Be cool.
Adios.
Be cool about fire safety.
Wow, that was a fun video about a real serious topic. Now let's take a few minutes to see what you've learned. I'm gonna pull some things out, and I want you to tell me if it's a tool or a toy. What about this? Is this a tool or a toy? Go ahead, I want you to shout it out. That's right. This hammer is a tool, right? It's something that our parents would keep in a toolbox around our house, right? Good job. What about this one? Is this a tool or a toy? Go ahead, shout it out. Again, good job. That's a tool. What about this? Is this a tool or a toy? That's right. Olaf here, my good friend, is definitely a toy. What about these? Tool or a toy? That's right. Those are a tool. What about this guy? Tool or a toy? Definitely a toy, correct? Good job. What about something like that? Is that a tool or a toy? Definitely a tool. Something mom and dad would use, correct? What about this guy? Tool or toy? Again, you are correct. That is a toy. What about that? A pair of scissors, right? Definitely a tool. Great job. All of these tools are things that you'd see around your house that adults use to fix things, right? And toys are the things that you and your brothers and sisters would have to play with, correct? That's right. Tools are things that adults use, and toys are for kids. What about these? Something like that. Are these tools or toys? What do you think? Shout it out. They're tools, right? Good job. Many of you may even recognize this one more than the first couple, but this is also a tool. Remember, matches and lighters are tools that adults use to start good fires. Wait a minute, what? Is there such a thing as a good fire? I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about that for a minute. Your teacher is going to put me on pause for just a minute and have a discussion with you about how fire can be used by adults as a tool to help us. Can you think of 4 types of good fires? One of my favorite things to do in summer is to cook hamburgers and hot dogs outside on the grill. So a barbecue grill is one example of a good fire that adults can use, right? What about when it's cold outside and we want to stay warm inside? We could start a fire in the fireplace, right? So that's a good fire because it helps us stay warm. When adults use candles correctly, that's another example of a good fire. And in the fall, when the temperatures start to drop and it gets cooler out at night, one of my family's favorite things to do is to sit outside around a bonfire or an outdoor fireplace or even a campfire if we're camping. So those are other examples of good fires that adults can use to help us. But every one of those types of good fires can become bad fires that hurt people or ruin property if they're not supervised by adults. That's why it's important for us to know that matches and lighters are tools, not toys, that only adults should use. So if they get left out where you can reach them and you see them, you should tell an adult immediately. Say it with me. Matches are tools, not toys. One of my friends in the video was the cousin of this guy, my smoke detector. What was our smoke detector's name in the video? Do you remember? Did I hear someone say Seymour smoke detector? That's right, good job. Question, Do you know where the smoke detector is in the room that you're in right now? Look around for it. Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to find it. Good work. Our smoke detector has one job. Do you know what that is? To tell us when he sees smoke. They sit up on the ceiling all day and all night long with a little nose inside them, like this one, that is constantly sniffing for smoke. And when it sees or smells smoke, it makes a noise to help us. Sounds like this. And that has to be real loud so that it wakes us up in the middle of the night when we're sleeping. And when we hear that sound, we need to do something. We need to get out of the house, right? In the video you just watched, they called that having a plan. You practice fire alarm drills at school, right? Well, having a plan to get out of your house during a fire is the same thing. It's knowing where to go when the smoke detector tells you that it sees smoke. You do practice fire drills at home every month, right? No? Well, you should practice it pretty often. Because where do you think you spend most of your time? At school or at home? I think I heard a few of you say at school. But the truth is, you're only here for 7 or 8 hours a day. So for the majority of the rest of your day, you're at home. Which means you should be practicing your fire drills at home just as much as you do at school. So that's part of your homework for today. To go home and tell your parents that you need to practice your home escape plan. Part of having your plan to get out is to know the exits from every room. How many ways do you have to get out of the room that you're in right now? If you look around, you'll probably see at least one door and at least one window, maybe even a couple windows, right? We should have at least 2 ways out of every room in our house. Our first choice is the door. So here's a question for you. Do you sleep with your door to your bedroom open or closed? I hope you said closed, because smoke and fire can come through an open doorway, but not through a closed door. A little bit of smoke might sneak under the door, but you're still safer than you would be with the door wide open. Okay, so when we go to the door, should we just open it wide open and run out into the hall? No, because we can't see what's on the other side. We need to make sure that there's not fire in the hallway. And to do that, we put the back of our hand on the door, or touch the handle with the back of our hand. We never want to just grab the door handle with our palms without first checking the door for heat with the back of our hand. If the door is hot, then we know that there's fire on the other side, and we need to go to the window. But if the door is not hot, we can slowly open it and peek out into the hall. If we see smoke or fire, then we know that it's not safe to go out there, and we close the door and we go out to the window. But if we don't see smoke or fire in the hall, can we go out the door? Yes. If we can't get out the door, then we go to our second exit, which is most likely our window. Do you all know how to open the window in your room? If not, that's another part of your homework. As part of your home escape plan, your parents need to show you how to open your bedroom window and how to remove the screen that's on the outside of your window. Here's a hint. If you push outward on the corners of your screen, it's going to fall out without breaking it. But wait, who here sleeps on the second story? So you can't just jump out the window, right? Because that long fall is going to hurt you, isn't it? Well, here's a tip on what you can do if you can't go out your door and your window is not on the ground floor. Once you open your window, scream and yell as loud as you can to make as much noise as you can. Hopefully, someone will hear you and come help. You can also start dropping anything that you have near the window outside. Your toys, your pillows, your blankets, your clothes, anything that you can find. When the fire department gets there, one of the first things that we're going to do is walk all the way around the outside of your house. We're looking for fire and smoke in the windows so that we know where the fire is, but we're also looking for people. If we come around to the area under your window and we see a big pile of stuff on the ground, we're going to stop. We're going to think, these people sure are messy leaving all their stuff outside like this. No. We're going to immediately look up, and we're going to see you at your window, and we're going to see that your window's open, and hopefully see you there yelling at us for help. That lets us know where you are and that we need to get to you right away. Here's another tip. If you see us walking around outside your window, grab whatever you can reach and aim for the top of our helmet. Pretend there's a bullseye right there in the center, because when we get hit in the head by a book or a toy, we're not going to think that it's raining books and toys. We're going to look up, and we're going to see you, and we're going to know that you're there and that you need help, and we're going to come get you out. Now, in the movie, Seymour Smoke Detector talked about how to fall and crawl like a baby, didn't he? Well, if you're ever in a room with smoke, we crawl low to the ground because that's where the good air is. Our smoke detectors are up on the ceiling because smoke and heat rise. It takes longer for that smoke to work its way down lower to the ground, giving us more time to get out safely. Even firefighters crawl low through smoke with our fire gear on because we can see better lower to the ground and out of the smoke. Question: when your smoke detector makes noise to tell you that there's smoke, but you don't see smoke, can we walk to the door? Yes. Yes, we can walk if there's no smoke in the room. Once we see smoke, then we got to fall and crawl like a baby. Now, let's go back and pretend that we're able to make it out of the house through the door or the window. Where should you go? Do you remember what Seymour Smoke Detector called it in the movie? A meeting place, that's right. Just like your meeting place at school is the same place every time you practice a fire drill at school, your meeting place at home should be the same place every time. It doesn't really matter where outside your meeting place is, just as long as everyone in your household knows where it is. Your family's meeting place can be at your mailbox, a tree in the front yard, or a neighbor's house. If your meeting place is the neighbor's house, just make sure that everyone in your household knows which neighbor. Because it doesn't do any good if mom goes to one neighbor, your dad goes to another neighbor, and you go to a third neighbor. Your meeting place should be the same place that everyone in your household goes to every time you practice, so that in a real emergency, everyone goes to the right place too. Once you get to your meeting place, if you realize that someone in your family isn't there, should you go back inside to find them? No. What about if you left your favorite toy inside? No. But what if your brother and sister is still inside? Can you go back in for them? No. That's the firefighter's job because we're wearing special gear that keeps us safe in a fire. What about your pet? Do you think your pet is still inside? Can you go back inside then? No. Again, that's our job. It only takes seconds for smoke to make us sick enough that we get confused and lost, even in our own homes. So never, ever go back inside a burning building. This is a toy of mine that was in a house that caught on fire. It was my favorite toy. And you can see that the fire burned him up pretty bad. He lost all of his stuffing, and his furry skin isn't furry anymore. He's never going to be the same. But you know what? My parents went to the store the next day, and they bought me another toy, just like him. The point here is that we can replace things, but we can't replace you. You can go to a store and buy a new Olaf. We can Amazon Prime our favorite PS4 game or any other toys. But can we go to the store and find another one of you on the shelf? No, that's right. Your parents can't go to the mall, find another kiddo just like you. You are the only you that there has ever been or ever will be. Out of the hundreds of billions of people to ever live, there's no one like you. And you're important. So please, never, ever go back inside a burning building. When the firefighters get there to your house and we find you at your meeting place, that's when you tell us if everyone's out of the house or not. And if there's someone still inside, we'll go get them. So, you're at your meeting place, your house is on fire, and everyone's out. What next? What should you do when you get to your meeting place? Someone's got to tell the fire department that your house is on fire, right? How do you do that? Who do you call? In our community, the emergency number is 911. When you call 911, someone's going to answer and get you the help for any emergency. So let's talk for a minute about what you can call 911 for. We know that you can call 911 to report a fire, and you're going to get the firefighters, right? Can you call 911 if you can't wake up your mom and you're worried about her? Well, let's talk about this for a second. If you're really shaking your mom or anyone and they won't wake up, well, then they may be sick and need a doctor. So you can call 911 to have an ambulance come and help. Question: can you call 911 if someone's trying to get into your house that's not supposed to be there? Yep, we can call 911 for this, and a police officer is going to come help. You can even call 911 and just set the phone down if you're hiding from that person and don't want him to hear you. The 911 dispatchers can track your phone and know right where you are. So we can call 911 if we need the fire department, the police department, and an ambulance. Remember now, 911 is a tool, not a toy. It's a tool that anyone can use in an emergency to get the help that they need. When you call 911, you need to know 4 things. First, you need to know what your emergency is. They need to know why you're calling so they know who to send for help. Second, you need to know your address. Do you know your address? If not, you should start memorizing that right away. Third, they're going to ask you for your phone number so that if the call gets disconnected for some reason, then they can call you back. Do you know your phone number or your parents' cell phone number by heart? If not, you need to start learning that right away too. And lastly, the 911 dispatcher is going to ask you for your name. You do know your name, right? I sure hope so. One last thing about 911. When you call 911 from a house phone, you don't need to do anything else. But when you call 911 from a cell phone, you also have to push the green send button in order for your call to go through. If you don't push that green button, then the 911 call won't work. Now that we've covered nearly everything that my friend Seymour Smoke Detector talked about, let's talk real quick about things that are hot and things that are cold. Is this hot or cold? Go ahead, I want you to shout it out again. That's right, this is cold. Good job. What about this? Is this hot or cold? Shout it out. Good job. If this were on the stovetop, then this would be hot, right? Is this something that you're going to touch if it's on the stove? No, because you could get burned. What about these? Are these hot or cold? Hot, that's right. If these candles are burning, then they're going to be hot and we shouldn't touch them. We should always make sure that candles are supervised by adults. Never leave a candle burning in a room without an adult in the room, because unattended candles burning can start a house fire. What about this? Chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream scooper. Is he hot or cold? Cold, that's right. Well, what about these? Right now, they're cold because they're not plugged in. But if these are plugged in, then they could be hot. So we would never touch these, or we could get burned. And this one? Hot or cold? Hot, right? Most likely has coffee in it, right? Good job. And last one. Just one, hot or cold? That's a tricky one, isn't it? It could have Kool-Aid in it, or it could have some nice hot chicken noodle soup or hot chocolate. We don't know until we open it. So with this one, we have to be careful until we know what's inside. The point here is that just like tools are for adults and can hurt children, things that are hot should be handled by adults because you could get burned. So last thing, let's talk about burns for a minute. More specifically, let's talk about what to do if your clothes catch on fire. Do you remember what Seymour Smoke Detector said to do if your clothes catch on fire? 3 words. Stop, drop, and roll. As soon as you realize that your clothes are on fire, you need to stop what you're doing, everything. Stop walking around even. Drop to the ground, cover your face with your hands to keep the flames and the fire out of your nose, your mouth, and your eyes, and then drop to the ground and lay down. Roll. Roll around on the ground as fast as you can until the fire is out. Start rolling in one direction until you can't roll anymore that way, and then roll back the other way. If you just roll back and forth too fast, then the fire may take longer to go out. So it's important to do complete rolls until the fire is out. You all did an amazing job of paying attention today. And now that you know how to prevent fires and how to escape a fire, your homework for tonight is to go home and have your parents show you your home escape plan. Ask them what your family will do if there's ever a fire in your house. And then you all need to practice your home escape plan with everyone in your household. And if your parents say that you don't have an escape plan, it's your job to help them make a plan using what you've learned here today. Because safety is everyone's job. And don't forget to start memorizing your address and your phone number. All right, so now it's time for one of my favorite things. We're going to take a tour through the fire truck and show you some of the things that we use to help us on a fire scene. We're going to start with the driver's seat. This is where the driver is. We call him an engineer because he's more than just a driver. Our engineers have to know a lot of different things about the pump, pressures, a lot of math. So if you're not really a friend of math in school, you need to become one if you want to be a fireman, because there's a lot of math involved in driving a truck and being an engineer. But you can see there's all kinds of buttons up there that get the truck moving, keep us safe, turn the lights on, and just make sure we get there safe. So that's pretty much his primary job when he's actually driving the truck. We'll talk in just a second about what he does once we get to the fire that makes him more than just a driver, it makes him an engineer. So as we start to look through some of the different compartments that we've got a compartment here that houses some of our medical gear. That's a medical bag. And then it houses the engineer's turnout gear as well as the SCBA that he would use when he comes into a house fire with us. Get back into what we call the jump seat. This is where the firefighter rides. We've got 4 seats on this truck. So we've got the driver's seat, the captain's seat, and then 2 jump seats. And then right now, today, it doesn't have anybody's gear in it because there's only 3 guys on the truck instead of 4. So this is kind of an empty seat right now. In here, we've got some hose, different sizes hoses. We've got 2.5-inch hose, 1 3/4 hose on the top and the bottom. They're all 200 feet long. And as we work around the other side of the truck here in just a minute, you're going to see that the hose can come out either side of the truck. Now, why do you think that might be? So think about that for a second. Why would the hose, we want it to come out from both either side of the truck, is because as we pull up to somebody's house, we don't necessarily know which direction we're coming in from and what side of the truck the house is going to be on. So we have to be flexible enough to take that hose off of either side of the truck. Down here at the bottom, we've got some of the gauges and the connections and the levers that get the water from the fire hydrant into the truck and then from the truck out through the hoses. This is the pump panel, and this is what I talk about when you talk about needing to know some math. As you start to look at some of these gauges and the levers that control the gauges, there's a lot going on here just at the pump panel. But behind this panel is the heart of the truck. It's called the pump. That pump takes the water for either from within the truck or the water that we bring in from the fire hydrant to the truck, and it dials that pressure up so that it comes out with much more force and a lot faster and a lot harder so that we can put out different size fires. And so every one of these levers has a purpose where it sends either opens up an inlet for the pump to bring water in, or it opens up an outlet where it sends water from the pump out through the hoses. As we come back to this compartment, we've got several different devices and things that help us on a fire scene. Down here, we've got just a cooler. This just houses water and Gatorade, so on a hot day like today, we can stay hydrated because that's important, right? And then we've got some other nozzles and some stuff up top. This thing here is what controls the light tower that comes up on the top of the truck. It's a light tower that sits about 40 feet up in the air, and it actually gives us light on a scene that is extremely bright that helps us on calls that are in the middle of the night. Here I've got a couple different things. This is kind of what we call our public education compartment. So I've got several different things up here. I've got some extra masks for our guys to wear, but then I've also got the helmets. I've got some stuffed animals that we can give to kids if their house burns. We can give them some, or they're in an accident and they're sad. We can give them a stuffed toy to kind of help them through that. We've got some extra bottles that go on the air packs that we wear. You got to remember those are not, it's not oxygen, it's air. It's just regular air like the air we breathe in now is what's in those bottles. And then we've got a ladder. I've got more bottles in here. As I come back here, a lot of different stuff up in here. Here I've got some saws. So I've got a chainsaw that I could use to cut a tree down if I needed to, or more likely for us on a fire scene, we're gonna cut a hole in the roof because we talked about, remember before, we talked about how smoke and heat rises, right? So it goes up to the ceiling. And so one of the ways that we help that smoke get out of the house is to cut a hole in the roof. And then we hook the fan up, either one of these two fans here, and we push good air into the house through the front door, and then the smoke rises and goes out the ceiling. I've also got a different saw here. This saw will cut concrete. So if I needed to cut concrete or cut any kind of metal, then I could use that saw there for that. As we come around the back, I've got a ladder that goes up to the top of the truck here on the back that has additional stuff on the truck that's up at the top. It's not as used as often, but it's just as important. We've got some rope rescue stuff up there. We've got some water rescue stuff up there, life jackets so that we can be safe when working around water, and just a couple of those different things that are up there. As we take this off, you can begin to see all of the hose that's in the back of the truck. We call that large diameter hose. So this yellow stuff is 5-inch hose. This is what's going to get hooked to the fire hydrant. And then when we turn the fire hydrant on, it sends all that water up into the fire truck. And then we've got some additional supply line if we needed it there as well. Back here in the back, we have what we call the booster reel. It's fire hose. It's just a little bit different than the hose that you saw pre-packed. So that's ready to go if we had a smaller fire or a brush fire or something that we didn't want to pull all that hose off on, then we can use that. And then it's when we turn the truck on, it just rolls it right back up for us. Up here, what do I got here? I've got some different tools, some pike pulls, some different things that would be used. If you ever heard of a truck called a hook and ladder truck, the way it got its name was that it's got a hook and then it's got a ladder. So the hooks help us to pull ceiling so that we can get up to a fire that's up in an attic up or in a higher space. As we come around the side of the truck, more tools. Up here at the top, these are our Lego blocks. We call them cribbing in the fire service. Our cribbing is used in conjunction with our airbags. That airbag, when I set it down on the ground and I use the SCBA or the air bottles that we talked about, hook it up with some hoses, I can fill that bag with air, and as it inflates, it begins to lift whatever it's underneath. It can lift several tons. It's going to lift that item. I can lift a train, I can lift a car, I can lift anything I want really. I can use, if it's too heavy for the bag, then I can use several bags and lift it up at the same time, bags on top of bags. And then as we lift the item, we use the cribbing to make sure that we build a tower. And so if that item were to fall back down, it lands on this instead of whoever or whatever we're lifting that item off of. I've got throw rope. That's, I told you up on top, we've got some water rescue stuff and some life jackets, but because water rescue emergencies are dynamic and they're ever changing and they're fast, we have some throw rope here that's handy that we can throw a rope out to somebody if they need help right away. We don't have to get up on the top of the truck for it. Down here, I've got a couple things. This is my battery powered spreaders that are going to spread a car open or spread any kind of metal. So if I want to open a door on a vehicle that's been in a car accident because it won't open on its own now, then I'm going to use that. In this one, I've got glass cutters. So as that goes into the glass on a window or on a windshield, we just move it along and it actually will cut the glass off of a car, either your windshield or your side window. Back in the back, that's called a ram. It works in conjunction with what I'll show you up here in the front, the hydraulic tool that I could spread stuff apart with. Here, this orange bag, this is called a RIT bag. This is an extra SCBA air tank that we would use if we needed to go in and get a firefighter who's hurt or stuck or can't get himself out. RIT stands for Rapid Intervention Team. So we've always got somebody on the fire scene who's ready to go in and just save us if something bad happens and we need to go in and help our own. We've got some extra hose in the back. We call that a hotel pack. The hotel pack is going to be used on any type of high-rise or a long stretch where we need to get water really far away. Around our community, we would use that maybe at like the Drury Inn or some of these 3, 4, 5-story buildings where we can hook that to a standpipe inside the building. It's got, we call it a standpipe, but it's basically a fire hydrant inside the building that brings water to all the different floors of the building. In here, this is my personal favorite compartment. This is the hand tools. So I've got axes, I've got bolt cutters, I've got my personal favorite tool here. This is the TNT tool. If you look at it, it's multi-purpose. So I can use it as a sledgehammer, I can use it as an axe, I can use it as a pike pole, I can use it as a prying device in order if I wanted to pry my way into a room. It's just really multi-purpose and can be used for a lot of different things. So that's my personal first choice. And then here in the back, I've got, we call this the blitz fire nozzle. This is going to be connected to some of the large inch, the 2.5-inch hose I showed you. And we could set that on the ground, turn it on, and water's flowing constantly. We don't have to sit there and hold it. And then we've got lockout kits and some other things that if somebody gets locked in a vehicle, we can, kind of like a locksmith, we can break the doors without breaking them. We can break into the car without breaking in the windows. And we just got more SCBA bottles so that if we have a large extended scene with a big fire, we're going through multiple bottles per person. We've got extras there on the scene. Each one of these bottles holds 45 PSI, which is pounds per square inch. It's a lot of fancy math you got to know again. Really what that means is as we're working, each one of those bottles, they say it's a 45-minute bottle, but as you're working with all the gear on, it's really only about 20 minutes worth of actual work time because you start breathing harder as you're working harder. And then in here, I've got some more interesting stuff. I've got some extension cords, and if I wanted to hook this to the truck, I can take power all the way out into the street if I wanted to, or across the street. I've got lights. These are plugged in right now, but if I unplug them, then I can take battery-powered light wherever I want. I've got extra batteries for the hand tools and the screwdrivers and the little small hand saws that we've got. Here I've got some additional tools that slide out here. I've got another closet hook, is what kind of like the pike pole we talked about on the back, but this one's a little bit shorter. I've got another tool here that would help to pull ceiling down. I've got a pry bar. As you come around the side here, I've got more connections. So if I wanted to take a 5-inch hose and connect it to a 4-inch hose, some of the departments around us have different size hose. So that helps us to make sure that we can connect it to different sized hoses. And then I've got the axe and the TNT tool, or the Halligan bar. The axe and the Halligan bar here that kind of work together to help us pry and work our way into a door if we needed to, or different purposes. Got more 5-inch hose here. It's a little bit smaller so that we can connect to a hydrant connection over here. I've got some fire extinguishers. I've got a water extinguisher and what we call an ABC fire extinguisher, or a dry chemical. It would help us to put out different types of fires. There's all different kinds of fires based on what's burning. I've got some step ladders back there. And then over here, you remember seeing that on the other side. That's the same hose. They went all the way through the truck. We talked about how we don't know which side of the house, or which side, we talked about we don't know which side of the truck the house is going to be on as we pull up, so we want to be able to take that hose and go either direction. As we work our way up here, this is the jump seat. We call this the firefighter's jump seat again. This is where he's going to sit as he's riding to a call. He's got his gear stored up there so that he's ready to go when we need him. This is another medical compartment. It's got another medical bag, some more medical bags up top so that if we run on a medical call, we've got all our stuff handy, we can grab it and go. And then this is where the captain rides. The captain is the guy that's in charge of the truck and the crew. The engineer gets us there. It's the captain's job to keep everybody safe, to make sure that that we're doing what we need to be doing. He's the one in charge, and he's going to be the one kind of leading the crew through doing whatever it is that we got to do. So we've got a computer up there that talks about, the computer is, it gives us the call notes, so our dispatchers can talk to us either on the headset and the radio or through the call notes. If they don't want to say something over the radio, they can give us a lot of information by the computer. The computer is also going to give us mapping directions, tell us how to get to the incident, wherever that might be. And then you can see that the SCBA that he's wearing and the SCBA that the jump seat guy was wearing is actually embedded into their seat. And the reason we do that is so that as they put their gear on as they're getting on the truck, and then once they get in the truck, they can begin to put that air pack on as we're moving. Because obviously we talked about how fire is an emergency and how we would call 911 as a tool. Well, because it's such a serious deal, we want to get there pretty quick. And so we don't want to take a lot of time getting dressed before we start moving. So anything we can do while we're moving to help us get ready to go, to be ready when we get to the scene, we want to be able to do that. So that's why that's there. As we come around to the front, I've got more hose here in the front. This is going to be what connects to the fire hydrant, brings water into the truck, into the pump, and then the engineer is going to pull the right levers and do his thing to make the water go from the pump out into the different fire hoses that we're using. And then in here, we've got, we just call it the tool. You might have heard it called the jaws of life, but this, for us, we just call it the tool. We've got spreaders that work just like the battery-powered ones that I told you, or I showed you earlier. But in addition to the spreaders, we have the cutters. And the cutters work the same way, but instead of spreading, they actually cut, because that's what cutters do, they cut. And then we've got one extra line. We call that the bumper line. That's going to be what we would pull off on a smaller fire that's not a house fire, maybe a car fire or something like that. And that is a Central County Fire Rescue fire truck.